Transportation accounts for nearly a quarter of global emissions, and in India, heavy-duty vehicles is the backbone of logistics, and they are central to economic flow. Yet decarbonizing this segment is vastly more complex than electrifying passenger cars. Today, we are going to discuss about the total cost of ownership look likes over a 10-year fleet cycle. How quickly can infrastructure scale? How do OEMs innovate without pricing out operators? And how do we ensure decarbonization does not inadvertently slow supply chains? We are joined by Mr. Abhijit Sinha, Program Director, National Highways for Electric Vehicles. Can we have a huge round of applause for Mr. Sinha? I request if you can sit here with your picture. Mug shots, thank you. Now I have Ms. Akanksha Verma, Vice President, Sustainability, DP World. Mr. BC Tripathi, Operating Partner, Energy, SR Group. Mr. Manoj Patni, Early Engagement Leader, Baker Hughes. Mr. Patni, yeah. Mr. Nimit Agarwal, Founder and Director, EcoEX. And to moderate this session, we have Mr. Kulbhushan Kumar, Partner, Energy Efficiency and E-Mobility, Grant Thornton, India. And, I'm so sorry. We have Mr. Dr. Sandeep Kumar, Chief Executive, L&T Semiconductor Technologies. Over to you, Mr. Kulbhushan.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. So we have a very eminent panelist today to discuss on green mobility, the adoption of LNG and EV heavy-duty trucks for transportation decarbonization. I'm Kulbhushan Kumar, leading electric mobility practice at Grant Thornton, Bharat. I'd like to set the context first. I have a few slides. If you can put on those slides, if possible. Otherwise, I'll just set the context without the slides. Okay. So as we all know that India's road transportation accounts for more than 12 to 15% of CO2 emission in the country. And within road transportation, freight is the largest, the emittent segment, which contributes more than 1/3 of the CO2 emission. Now, if we look at the economy will grow with time, and the demand for the freight will also increase, and it is expected to increase by 4 times by 2050. And if we just, without any intervention, if we continue the same BAU scenario, the energy and the pollution from the freight itself will double by 2050. And with this, it will be very difficult for the country as a whole to meet the net zero target by 2070. Now, keeping in this mind, there are two pathways which has been set. One is the LNG trucks, and second is the EV heavy-duty trucks. Now, the question is not that LNG trucks versus EV trucks. The question is that which technology, at which corridor, and at what speed, and at what scale. So what is required in the country from the policy side, infrastructure side, from the technology side, from the fleet management side, to scale up both dual, the pathways which has been set by the country on LNG trucks and the EV trucks. So that is in brief. I would not like to go into details. I would like the panelists to hear from the panelists on what needs to be done, what are the challenges on each of these. So before I start, I would like to request all the panelists to introduce themselves briefly about the name, designation, and about the work which they are doing in the green mobility space. Over to you, Mr. Abhijit Sinha.
Thank you, Mr. Bhushan, for setting up the context. I'm Abhijit Sinha, National Program Director of Ease of Doing Business. I'm in additional charge of National Highway for Electric Vehicle, e-highways. And here I'm representing the decarbonization of surface transport ambition of Government of India. this is a place, this is a space where there are a lot of technologies changing every day. And the way we have been doing policy, the way we have been doing decisions was very well outlined yesterday by our Honorable Prime Minister. India has crossed a time where a cabinet note used to take more than a month to come up. Today, we need a technology which can give you a governance for AI tomorrow. If today there are some anomalies and gaps. In technology space, this decision making becomes more difficult, whether it's CNG versus LNG, or whether it's LNG versus hydrogen or electric. We want it or we do not want it. We live in a very price sensitive country, and it is also requiring a certain degree of confidence on technologies that we are going to use at a scale. So my work as a piloting agency for ease of doing business is to widely bring across evidence-based policy making. And this is not possible until and unless you make pilots, prototypes, technical trial runs, dry runs, and these all are data-driven decisions. So I try to accelerate the time that we may lose in taking those decisions, or we may take wrong decisions, which as a country we need to pay on a very high price. So this is all which I do. Other than that, I am principal advisor to Services Export Promotion Council, Ministry of Commerce and Government of India. There I work with MSMEs to bring and make them transport and export equivalent. These two portfolios I would like to bring here in the consideration and in the discussion. Going forward, we'll share more about it.
Good morning, everyone. Firstly, thank you for having me here today. Truly a pleasure. My name is Akanksha, and I'm Vice President Sustainability for Middle East, North Africa, and India at DP World. DP World is a UAE headquartered port operator, global port operator, and integrated logistics company. We are proud to share that we move 10% of global trade. And with this, my job becomes extremely important in decarbonizing the entire trade operations, which is across port, marine, rail, surface transport, and other multimodal services. So we are trying to look at price sensitivities, which could be offered to customers at an affordable rate, but at the same time also give them an opportunity to take informed decisions on multimodal shifts of transportation, because that's one of the opportunity areas we feel as a company could make a lot of difference data-wise as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, my fellow panelists and the audience here. My name is B.C. Tripathi. I'm former chairman GAIL, and now I am the operating partner for the SR group in the energy vertical of SR, and I'm also chairman of the Green Mobility Company of SR. And at SR, we have launched this platform which is providing the complete ecosystem, largely focusing on heavy-duty transport. As you mentioned that among the transport, also heavy-duty transport is the major consumer of diesel and major emitter of all the pollutants. So as a matter of philosophy, we thought we should really address that part first, which is most difficult to address because there's a lot of action happening around electric scooter, electric car, electric buses, but not much of the traction around the heavy-duty transport, which consumes almost 1/3 of the crude we are importing in the country goes into heavy-duty transports. And when I'm saying heavy-duty transport, I'm talking of trucks above 60 tons and above, which carries goods from ports to hinterland, from mines to the plants, and from plants to the end consumer. So there we have launched a company called Green Line, which is the largest operator of LNG truck today in the country. And I think, I don't have the data for that, but it should be the largest for the electric truck as well. So we have already proven that concept from last 3 years. We are at an inflection point where we are now looking at the scale and the speed of implementing that. So ultimately, we intend to go from current around about 800 trucks to 10,000 truck company in next 3 years' time. So, and the whole system has been built that is not dependent for supplier to supply the electric vehicles. It's not dependent on somebody to buy them. It's not dependent on somebody to give it the fuel. So it's a complete integrated platform on which we are rolling out these services. So as we go along, I'll be happy to answer what is the scale and what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Manoj Patni. I look after early engagement for subsea business for Baker Hughes in the Eastern Hemisphere. Baker Hughes is a company, energy technology company, where we have products and services in the entire value chain of energy transition.
Hello. Yeah. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Navit Agarwal. I'm representing EcoX. So I'm going to talk about the other side of the business, which is the recycling and the resource recovery or management after the life cycle analysis, after the end of the life cycle of the product we are talking about, the EV freight, majorly in this case. We are working with 750 clients, largely for compliances in the environment sector and for battery and oil in this case. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
I'm Sandeep Kumar, CEO of L&T Semiconductor. So in the context of this discussion, I'm just an enabler. I make the components that one goes into making an EV truck or into the charging infrastructure. And so we build that. And then interestingly, India, in my mind, is we do a lot of work with Mercedes, and they have the whole US infrastructure on the truck side is going SDV, which means not only are they EV trucks, they operate on their own without a driver. Now, that is possible in US because of the highways and the traffic on those, probably not possible in India, but EV is a big thing in the whole trucking space in Germany, Europe, and in the US. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So we'll start the discussion. We'll start with the strategy first. So I'll start with Mr. Sinha first with you. Now, if you look at the freight emission, they are mainly concentrated on the major industrial corridor. And globally also the countries are building their structured green freight corridors. So what, in your opinion, from the national planning perspective, how is the India architecting this transition? And do you see LNG and EV heavy-duty trucks being deployed through the segmented strategy? That is like we have EV for the short haul to medium haul and LNG trucks for the long haul? Or do you anticipate faster electrification across segments?
So I don't know how much what I'm going to tell you is already there in public domain, but decarbonization of surface transport, developing electric highways or developing green corridor is not only India's ambition. Every country is trying in their own way. And I would like to bring here in your attention that where do we stand? Globally, there are three popular ways of converting a freight highway into e-highway. One is with Germany, which is an overhead pantograph wire, and Siemens and Scania has done a lot of work on that. They also tried to do a prototype in India in 2018-20 around. Second is Tesla model, where you have very expensive vehicle. They are very well-defined architecture of software and digital infrastructure. They find their charger knows about them. And a lot of data and configuration makes your life easy, but that is very expensive. India has taken a third path, which is a beta version of German highway, you can say, which is not exactly the German highway, not the US highway, the Tesla one. India has developed a new way. If cost comparison, German highway is 24 crore rupees per kilometer. Indian beta version of National Highway electric vehicle is only 1 crore rupees per kilometer. And it gives accommodation to each and every vehicle, whether they have overhead wires or not, they have extended arm or not. There's no wireless fitting required for that. How do we do that to accommodate 4-5 things is by defining how Indian e-highways are going to be. First, if you shut down an electric highway in India, you will get a backup within 30 minutes. That's not something possible in even diesel and petrol today. Second, the low cost of vehicle is offered to you because India, with help of Niti Aayog and Ministry of Road Transport and Highway, managed to develop a battery on subscription model. So only 40% is being paid by the fleet operator who own those vehicles. And last but not least, if on these highways there are possibilities of certain degree of decarbonization of the source, because a lot of people question electric highways or electric transport by saying this: where is the source? Are you going to charge all this freight and transport vehicle by burning more coal or more gas into thermal grid? Definitely not. Every station after 100 kilometer, which is a 4.5 to 5 acre station, 4 times bigger than your current petrol pumps, with 32 chargers, equipped with a facility which is providing you power, facilities, amenities, toilets, baby feeding area, which all you can only imagine at airports, are possible and are under construction right now. Every station is in a possible position to dispense 3.2 megawatt, not only for passenger vehicle or fleet vehicle, but our focus is freight vehicle. And these stations are not only limited to electric trucks. They also cater LNG, they also cater, and they are also getting equipped to transform more towards hydrogen. So the journey that India is going to give, the script that India is writing today, is going to be taken by many other countries tomorrow. Because nobody at this stage of time, next month I'm going to Malaysia to present this on a Asian platform, so that Asian countries who are planning to decarbonize their freight or their routes, what do they take? If they go for US, it's very expensive. If they go for China, there are strategic issues, there are trust and credibility issues. India is posing as a country which can convert any route in electric highway on the lowest possible price. We can give them technology, product, service, people, vehicle, everything. Only land and power is something that we take from other countries. It is not only in e-highway. I would like to add that we also lay train railways, and Konkan Railway is the one railway which has given Israel lot of support when this conflict between Israel and Hamas happened, and a lot of their railway lines were damaged. So lot of these are now building in India, and I'm sure that each component partners, I'm very happy that we have a couple of them here, are very consistently doing technical trials. I have done technical trials with Green Line, I have done technical trials with Blue Energy, and many others who are not only giving answer to industry, that industry wanted to listen, that whether I should go for hydrogen, I should wait for hydrogen, I should go for electric, or I should convert today to LNG. Every answer today in a technical world is possible and available.
Thank you so much. So now, since as Mr. Sinha has mentioned that all the three things are happening at the same time, and corridors, actually architecture has set the direction, so we can now, this corridor can only function if we have energy system aligned. So now I'll move to Mr. B.C. Tripathi. Like India's freight sector is both a major emitter as well as the economic backbone of India. So how do you see LNG and electric heavy duty trucks? They are reshaping the future of long haul and the short haul logistic in India. And will this transition remain segmented by use case or evolve dynamically over time?
So just before I answer this question, let me just give you what the Green Line and what the SR group is doing, because that will help you to understand this. You see, this aspect was examined by us almost 3 years back, and we came out with a strategy which is exactly addressing the question which you are raising to me. See, if you talk about waiting for electric trucks to be launched, then you know that it's a chicken egg story. We don't have those infrastructure, we don't have those electric trucks. But even if you go to the LNG also, we don't have sufficient dispensing station, we don't have LNG vehicles. So then we look at across how do you develop this, not only a logistic company, but as a whole ecosystem of the heavy duty transport. And should we address heavy duty, medium duty? So we decided that we should address the heavy duty, which is the major contributor to the carbon dioxide. That's why we have gone to the trucks of 60 tons and above. We have not gone for the smaller truck. So we set up a company called Blue Energy, which is making LNG-driven trucks with the license coming from Iveco from Europe. And these trucks are being assembled, and that you need a cryogenic tank to store the LNG. So we got that tank initially from China, but now they are being built in India also. So that's how we solve the problem of getting LNG driven trucks. And in the second phase, the same company is also making electric trucks. Now coming to the who buys the truck, who owns the truck, who operates the truck, and where do we provide these services? How do you create the demand? So we set up a company called Green Line, which is buying the truck from the Blue Energy Motors and putting them into service and owning those fleets. So Green Line today operates almost 800 LNG trucks, and it's going to scale up at a rate of 3 to 4 times. Every month we are going to add those fleet vehicles. So ultimately next 3 years, we intend to go to a 10,000 truck kind of a platform for LNG. And today almost 20 trucks are already operating with 2 charging and swapping stations. And that also the aim is to go to 6,000 LNG trucks, the battery operated trucks in next 3 years time. So that's the scale and the journey we are talking. Now, if you look at LNG, it reduces your carbon footprint by almost 40%. So 450 million tons of CO2 emission, which is coming today, we can easily reduce it by 40% by deploying LNG. And of course, 100% by electric. SOx and NOx is almost zero. So that's why we thought for long haul, with one tank charge, the LNG truck can go up to 1200 kilometers. We have come out with a new innovation where we are putting 2 tanks. So it means with 2 tanks, a truck can go 2400 kilometers. So you charge in Bombay, come to Delhi and go back to Bombay. So by that you are reducing the infrastructure required for fueling the station. So we set up another company called Ultra Gas, which is setting up the LNG fueling station, and today 6 fueling stations are operating, and we are going to go to 100 fueling stations. With that, we believe that major golden quadrilaterals and major industrial hub where we are getting heavy metal and steel, that area can be easily covered. So that's how we have mapped the whole country looking into the movement of heavy duty trucks. Now, coming to the question which you are asking me today, the challenge in this is the cost of truck compared to diesel truck is very high. Normally a diesel truck will cost you roughly around about 40 lakhs. This LNG truck is costing you 60 lakhs. That's upfront capital. If you go to electric, it is even 80 lakhs or so. So that's the difference in the cost. So how do you solve that problem? So we are coming out with the asset light model where we are trying to bring in a lot of financial supporters to help us to raise that kind of capital and to scale. As of now, we see that looking into the availability of infrastructure and looking into the capability of the truck to go to 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers is going to be the solution for long haul, because electric truck cannot travel that far distance. So point to point in a localized area or for a shorter distance, we see electric truck is the better suitable options. Looking into the benefit of the carbon reduction, electric truck definitely is going to add value, but it cannot be scaled up at a national level at such a large distance. But as we go forward, when the battery technology improves, the price of batteries come down, this can also be scaled up. Now, question is, in the country today, almost 4 million trucks, heavy-duty trucks are operating. Now, you need a massive scale. What percentage of that you want to cover? Government of India has already come out with a certain target to be achieved as far as the LNG penetration is concerned and EV penetration is concerned by 2030. I'm pretty sure the way this green line story is there, we will be able to achieve that. But for at least for 5 to 7 years time, horizon which I can see, the LNG is going to provide the solution for long haul. And probably the electric trucks will go from short to a medium term distance. Let's say today one truck is traveling 150 kilometers, so it needs swapping or recharging. It may go to 400 to 500, and then before it goes to 1,000 kilometers. So it will take time. It's a journey. I believe we have to have both the options. Looking into the size of our country, we need to have both the options running together. It's not either of them, as you rightly said in your opening remark. And in terms of economics, LNG offers a better economics today. If you look at overall in terms of the energy security perspective also, we are 90% import dependent on crude. And out of that, almost 40% crude goes towards the diesel. So can we replace it with LNG? Can we substitute the import? And in terms of price, if you see, LNG in the energy terms is around 20% cheaper. So overall energy cost for transportation will also go down. Overall carbon footprint will go down. And ultimately, it will benefit not only environmentally, but also economically for everybody. And we'll be able to cut down our logistic costs, which is very important for us, all of us, for the economy to grow. So that's the platform on which we are working today. And I'm looking into our experience of last 2 years, where we have really scaled up from 20 trucks to 100 trucks. Now we are 800 trucks. By end of March, we're going to go to 1,000 trucks. By next year, it should be roughly 4,000 trucks. So ultimately, this is the journey for next 3-4 years which we have set out. The other important challenge which we are facing is the skill set to address and provide those kind of services. So we are trying to address that part, because it's easier said than done in terms of operating those highly sophisticated technology-driven truck, because this whole system is running in a technology platform where each and every truck is being monitored. The movement of driver, the speed of driver, the location of driver, the fuel into the tank is being monitored centrally at a command center. Now we are trying to bring in the next phase technology of AI, how it can help us to really optimize and cut down the cost first. As I said in the beginning, that the initial capital cost is high. So if I can cut down my operating cost, operating efficiency, that's where I can bring down the overall cost. So that's where we are in the journey, and I'm very optimistic that LNG will play a significant role for long term, long haul, and battery will be for short to medium. That's what
Thank
I
you
can
so
say.
much. I completely agree with you that LNG will actually win on the long run, long haul routes, and then EV is definitely on the operating cost. But now what I see is that we have covered the energy supply, but at the same time we also need supply chain ultimately to shape the freight flow. So I'll now come to Ms. Kansha Sharma. Like you, ports and logistic parks, they are normally concentrated emission hubs in the country. And increasingly, if you look at the global supply chain, they are embedded carbon metrics into the procurement. So how is DP World driving its net zero strategy across Indian logistic needs?
So, I mean, before I get on to the answer straight away, I want to give you a scenario that to enable global trade operations, it's important to also raise the collective consciousness of the trade operators. So what we have basically done is created, enabled an innovative system of carbon calculator, which is giving an informed decision of modal shift program to the operators, which includes the whole wide spectrum of people, from the beneficiary cargo operators to the shipping lines to the carriers and all of that. So we are able to today tell them that if you will go from route A to place A to place B, this is the most carbon efficient route that you can take, and which also involves a modal shift from at times road to rail, at times from air to sea. And I think this is the most opportune case for carbon emission saving that we are highly optimistic about. In addition to that, we have very ambitious net zero goals for scope 1, 2, and also scope 3 emission reduction and net zero by 2050. Having said that, it includes whole gamut of operational efficiency work around electrification. We have done already EV intraport service electrification. We have done, backed by, of course, technical trials, successful ones. We have done a lot of electrification and modal shift programs. We are now looking at integrated logistic services, which could also support the operators in a most carbon efficient ways of transportation. We are looking at, especially at the port operations, we are looking at open sourcing of renewable energy. We have already integrated some of those services into our operations. So there is a multi-pronged approach that we are looking at in terms of not just our own operational efficiencies, but also providing a very transparent and carbon efficient modes of transportation to the operators to uplift the entire industry of supply chain.
Thank you so much. Now, I would say that technology and the cost structure, they shape the adoption. So we can move to Dr. Sandeep Kumar. Like EV and LNG are heavy reliant on the new technology for their implementation and success. So how do advances in semiconductor impact them, and how dependent is green mobility on semiconductors?
I think interesting thing about technology is the cost curve in technology is quite strong. Uh, Especially in the world of EV, if you look at what is the battery or what is the electric conversion to the motor, which is driven by some kind of a silicon carbide power module, that whole technology is probably going down at the speed of 50% a year. So if you look at what is the cost buildup of a truck, and you shift from even a test, I mean, if I just take the analogy down back to a passenger vehicle, now BYD EV cars are cheaper than a regular, car. And that's not that they're selling it cheaper, making less profit, etc. It is driven by technology. However, to achieve that kind of curve, you need certain volumes. And this is the challenge in the commercial space, right? Is the speed at which the fleet will get converted from whatever it is to a LNG or a EV may not be enough to kind of leverage that same cost reduction curve. I mean, same thing has happened on the if you look at the buses, which is really short haul. Pretty much all the new buses I don't know how much in India, but around the world have gone EV, right? So same thing could happen here. And then the second half is, okay, what does the infrastructure look like for charging? Again, cost on the charging infrastructure it is same semiconductor components driving it. And that will also go down year over year. In general, semis, no matter what area you are in, the cost goes down 30% every year. So that's, I think, we just have to leverage that. Sometimes we get caught by the current pricing and not looking at what technologies, what breakthroughs, what we could do. So we are doing some of these works, and we are now trying to bring them so that not only are we doing it, but we're doing them in India and building the power modules, the electrification modules, the batteries, etc., as part of L&T Semiconductor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, I can see that government is actually having a lot of schemes to promote EV as well as LNG. So on the EV side, they have the third phase of the FAME 3 PM e-drive scheme, where they have allocated around 500 CR for trucks. And at the same time, in the draft LNG policy also, they have a target of 1/3 of trucks or the freight on the long haul trucks to be the LNG trucks. So all those things are being taken, and yes, on the cost part, you are completely right in terms of the technology cost is driving very fast. And I would like to say that you mentioned that BYD cost is less than the conventional car. Uh, so yes, to an extent, I would say that in cars, there may be some cases battery as a service. When you have battery as a service, yes. And the conventional car, the electric car is, the cost of your electric car or the TCO cost parity is achieved in case of the public car. So moving on.
One comment I will make. So this is back from the US. So one is the capex in the cost of the truck. The second is the savings in the cost of the fuel, right? So in the US, they rolled out a program where the additional cost of the truck is actually borne by the technology provider as a certain adder per mile. So actually the operator is not paying for the extra cost on the vehicle. The cost is borne, and the technology provider is actually making more money over the long run because it becomes a annuity over time as opposed to a one-time installation. So it's kind of like the toll road scheme, right? You collect a little bit every time. Now this, you're doing it on a truck. Sorry.
Sure. So now I'll say that markets are increasingly not only shaped by the fuel cost, but they are also shaped by the carbon cost. So I'll move to Mr. Nimit Agarwal. Uh, as India's carbon market framework evolves, and freight could become a major sectoral participants in that. So can LNG and EV freight deployments generate credible carbon credits?
Sure. Thank you, sir. I think that's possible, and that's already happening also, not in the vehicle space, but in the charging electric vehicle space. Before I jump into that, I would want to mention some statistics. I think that would make my point a little valid. So the total carbon emission which is happening in India, the transportation sector is responsible for approximately 15% of it. Apart from that, in the transportation sector, the freight, the truck cost, they are transporting 97% of the freight. They are only 3% of the vehicle in terms of the total vehicles which are running on the roads. Apart from that, these 3% vehicles are generating 55% approx emissions of the those transport sector within the transport sector of the 15%. So I feel that this is a natural way of looking at any technology, like in the solar, like sir mentioned before. So also Mr. Tripathi mentioned it's a chicken and egg story. So I come from the other side of the value chain. We want to foresee and calculate what would be the cost of disposal, what would be the cost on the environment and the impact on the environment of these products once they are in mass produced. And we can see that challenges happening in the solar space today. We know that the life of a solar panel is 20 years, 15 years. We know the technology upgradation happening in the solar space today. But we don't know how we are managing that waste. There is no credible recycler. If you tell me 3 names in India, I will be shocked. And I'm working with 5,000 plus recyclers and collectors in various space, in electronic, in waste, in battery, in tire, in rubber. So I see that happening in the value chain where this needs to be developed. Coming back to the question that sir asked, there are schemes by the government is taking note. They are implementing a lot of policies on this. One policy they have implemented is CCTS, Carbon Trading Scheme, which is largely on the hard to abate sector. So once they are putting this cost in account, they are putting the cost of the trucks, they are putting in the cost of the operation, but they are not putting the cost of mitigating the carbon footprint of those companies, which will then shift towards these EV vehicles instead of the ones which are traditionally used. So this is my point. I think we are here to guide people and maybe also walk along with them for managing their environment sector needs. And that is what we have done. We have done almost 1 million tons of offsets last year. So we were the market leaders in the plastic space, and we want to bring in change. We work with the bottom of the pyramid, so we want to bring that kind of change. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. So we'll move to the infrastructure, but before we get into deeper into the infrastructure, I'll say that let's step back and look at the global energy realities. So I'll come to Mr. Manoj Patni. So globally, LNG markets have experienced volatility and supply disruption. So as India expands LNG infrastructure for trucking, how do you ensure resilience and avoid stranded investments?
So couple of things. You need to de-risk any supply chain by very basic principles. You need to diversify. You cannot depend on one country like Qatar or let's say Australia and get all the LNG from one country. You need to diversify your supply chain as much as possible. Have short-term, long-term contracts and as well as spot markets for LNG. The other thing that I would do is have enough infrastructure both in the east coast of India and west coast of India to handle whatever LNG that is being supplied. Last but not the least, you have to understand LNG, India is a fairly energy hungry market where if you see, we are like sir mentioned, we are importing, if I'm not wrong, more than 85% of our oil. So we consume about 5 million barrels per day, and we import more than 4 every day. And similar with gas, 50% of gas that we consume is imported. So given that we are anyway importing all of that, it's compared to any developed country, it is going to impact us less. We are much more resilient as an economy to handle any of the shocks. One last thing that LNG we need to do with is it is similar to oil and gas. Once you store gas in terms of LNG, you can then preserve it. You can keep it just like your oil strategic reserves that many countries have. You can have strategic reserves of LNG as well. So these three things you do, you'll be okay.
Okay, thank you so much. So now we'll move to the infrastructure and reliability part, because infrastructure is the one which ultimately determines the pace. So I'll come to Mr. Abhijit Sinha. So are we building charging hubs and the LNG station ahead of demand, or waiting for the fleet commitments? How do you break this chicken and eggs cycle?
Since it is very important at this stage of time to understand that how infrastructure is going to play as a support to it. So being also program director for ease of doing business, let me take a step back and accept that there are certain loopholes always remain in the policy making, which can only be filled if you have evidence-based policy making. Otherwise, either it will be a hunch or either it would be a kind of experiment which is going to make government and industry both pay a very high price. In last 7-8 years, whatever in electric mobility and the decarbonization of surface transport has happened was not so very rosy picture. And today what we have as infrastructure is an evidence of that difficulties which each one of us are facing. If you have an EV, you are facing, and if you don't have an EV, then you are feeling. Where we went wrong is something very important to address and also to adopt it, accept it. That in terms of what my co-panelist said, that 17% of emission comes from transport. Out of that, 55% comes from truck. In FAME 1, FAME 2, there is no truck subsidy. You spent 10 years without subsidizing heavy duty trucks. And then a technical trial that in the first trial, we also did not, in the Delhi, Jaipur and Delhi, Agra, we did not include a truck. But in the third trial, when we did between Chennai and Trichy, we specifically included 55-tonner trucks, electric trucks. And then thanks to Principal Scientific Advisor to Prime Minister and also the Cabinet, that equally with a faster speed, it came out that there would be 500 crore rupees for trucks subsidies in PM E-Drive. But is 500 crore rupees is sufficient? That's a place where we need to look into the PPP mode, where we seriously need to look into how and what sort of playground we have given to decarbonization of surface transport. Land acquisition on highways is a difficult work. It cannot be done by private companies if they are not power and petroleum PSUs or they are very large in size. Second, getting power into megawatts for decarbonizing and for charging. Today I am saying charging, tomorrow it would be swap, then it will come LNG, CNG, there could be more like hydrogen. Third is how are you going to create access to that space, particularly when you have increasing number of access control highways. You can't step out of highway, you can't come back on the highway because it has an access control. And last is the safety, security, amenities on that particular wayside amenities. In specific manner, we said that this is the difficulty of doing business over a period of time. We have not been able to solve to the decarbonization of surface transport. So let's do it the way it should be. All infrastructure on national highway electric vehicle or national highway, national expressways and privately operated highways would have 1 5-acre 3.2 megawatt dispensing power station after each 100 kilometer. These stations are co-working space for the industry. I do not wish to be overpowering the decision which technologies will drive tomorrow, whether it will be LNG, hydrogen, electric charge and electric swapping. Because by the time I develop a policy, and subsidize one of the component. And I have a live example sitting at our panel. By the time we developed, a charging truck infrastructure, Blue Motor Energy brought a truck which has a swapping capability. It changes the dynamics in a different manner. The efficiency goes up, and then you don't need a downtime. So what type of infrastructure we will provide, it has to be technology agnostic. It has to be facilitator rather than being into the business. Our Prime Minister clearly says government has no business to be in the business. Our business is to facilitate you what is not happening over a period of time. And the last but not least, ease of mobility in India is also on a very critical space. Half an hour of rain in any space of Delhi NCR, and you can't reach to Gurgaon people can't reach to Delhi. And it is not a story of only Delhi, it is a story of many cities in India where there are news reports coming that people from Mumbai to Pune has reached into 32 hours. People from Delhi to Manali are reaching into 3 days. There is something seriously wrong, and that wrong is not out of the sight of government. In October, our Honorable Prime Minister has taken it very seriously. He expressed his disappointment on the ease of doing business which we are giving to people in their own citizen life. And an apex transport authority, above all of these authorities which are not talking to each other, which are not looking into long-term transition, is to be made. And not only this, there are segmented announcement happened to make sure that these technology do not take time on the tables of officials on the bureaucracy. In, I think, 10 days time from the 8th working group of National Highway EV, where we recommended that we have a solution why people are dying in fog every year. 2 vehicles are colliding and 6 more vehicles are hitting to it and becoming a mess of death toll up to 2024 in one accident, while we have a technology to give an early alert to vehicle. I'm glad and I'm very happy that Ministry of Road Transport and other authorities has taken the cognizance and vehicle to vehicle communication introduced in India. 30 megahertz spectrum takes a lot of time and discussion to come out, but 30 megahertz has been quickly decided by Ministry of Road Transport and Highway. It is now in public domain. New vehicle which will come, you will be able to talk to other vehicle with fighter pilot type of mode. You will also have an early alert system. Where is your diversion? Why you should not go? It is not going to stop here. The mobility is going to change the way we have been moving on the road, and there is a serious concern of the way we have been driving on road. So driving sense in India is, I think, to be frank, has no way to be captured by the police or by the cameras. There has to be an electronic enforcement over it, and we are working on that.
Sure, sure. I completely agree, and you rightly mentioned PPP model for implementation of charging infrastructure and the issue with respect to the land acquisition for the private sector. Yes, PSU and the oil sector companies, they are way ahead and they already have the gas filling station or petrol filling station at prominent places across the highways, and they are at the best place to set up the charging infrastructure or LNG filling station. But before I'll just ask a common question to all of you, I'll just like to touch upon on the economics part. Mr. Tripathi, you have already covered, touched upon the economics of LNG and the EV trucks. However, I just would like to know from you, like how important is the integrated ecosystem making green mobility commercially viable at scale? And does vertical integration reduce risk and accelerate market creation?
No, exactly the point Sinha has been mentioning. I just want to make quick comments on that. I think some suggestion, since we have a pleasure of you being in the panel here. See, Green Line has built only 6 stations so far. Our ambition was to go to 100 stations in 2 years' time. But exactly the problem which we faced is in the land acquisition. But once you acquire the land, then question is amount of approval you need. Probably you are not aware, to set up a one petrol station or LNG station, you need 35 approvals. Now you have to go to everybody. There are cases when Green Line has already set up 5-6 LNG stations. They are waiting for approval from PESO from last 6 months. PESO doesn't have bandwidth to give you those necessary approval. We are not saying that you need not to check. They are highly explosive. They should be checked, but you have to have that bandwidth. So government needs to create that bandwidth to provide those kind of inspection, regulations, approval process. If you have to go right from the Patwari to the collector in a district to get an approval for one land, and then once you construct, then you need similar approval to start the operation. So many of the assets which are ready to be commissioned, and we keep shouting at our people, they come out with these problems. So I think from the policy side and the ease of doing business side, this is a very, very important area which we need to focus if we want to go to scale and speed. Now coming back to your question, in terms of the whole integrated system, that's what exactly problem with us. I was just discussing before this meeting with one of my colleagues. Tata Motors came out with LNG trucks 10 years back, but nobody bought it. There was no station. There was no buyer. Now we are launching and learning with this experience. We decided that unless we have our own in-house manufacturing, we have our in-house somebody who has to rely on that technology and buy those trucks, because people don't get confidence in the new product so easily. Then you need to have your fuel. Unless you look at that way, you will not be able to really scale up, and you will not be able to roll it out. And that's the reason we have gone into this model. And I believe till such time, the more infrastructure comes, more manufacturers come. Now I understand that Ashoka Leyland, Tata, Eicher are also started coming out with these models. It's a momentum. The same thing happened with the CNG vehicle. Earlier, only Maruti was making CNG vehicle. Now all those major international players are offering you CNG options. The same thing will happen here also. But somebody who is starting has to take that kind of approach. If you simply say, no, I will buy trucks and start implementing, I will not be able to get market. So integrated approach does help, does cut down your costs, does reduce your risk. So and that's the way we have gone. But probably going forward, people may not need it once you have multiple pump operators, truck manufacturers, and it has been established. Government and regulator also have understood how to give the approval. And I think that will evolve. That's what will evolve. But my only suggestion, Mr. Sinha is sitting here, is that if we want to achieve decarbonization of the logistics system, I think these processes and check approval process has to be expedited right from the land to all the approvals. So I come from oil sector, spent 40 years there. I know how difficult it is. So this is a message. If private partnership has to happen, these things has to improve.
Sure. Yeah. Now we have only 10 minutes with us, so I'll ask one single question to all of you. It's an open question to all the panelists. So if India wants to prevent freight emission from doubling within the next decade, so what must be prioritized first? Infrastructure scale, financial innovation, stronger policy mandates, or corporate procurement reforms? So one by one, I think we can start from you, Mr. Sinha, and then we can go one by one. You can just give your thoughts. What should be prioritized first out of all the options? Just pick one out of the all. Policy is the one which you feel, innovative financing mechanism is what is required in the country, infrastructure scale, or is it a corporate procurement reforms? What needs to be, should come first?
Very wisely placed, all of them, they are very significant, but I think policy is something which is at this stage of time when you have a lot of potential. If you have right policy, all other components you can take care. But if you don't have right policy, right way of procurement or financing, then you may end up making something which is not helping. We are third largest country which is investing on infrastructure today, apart from China and Japan. But the ease of mobility that we are giving to people is not translating. And that is where I think policy is something which I will choose.
Thank you so much. Mr. Kansha Sharma.
I think all of them will go hand in hand, but one of the interesting things that I want to really highlight is technology and the role of digitalization here, because DP World is investing a lot in virtual trade corridors, which actually bridges the physical and the digital system so that the supply chain and the logistics can become more efficient. We can reduce the empty freight and resulting into low carbon movements. And I think that the entire ecosystem movement will change with this change in scenario.
What are the questions? Sorry, I missed your question.
What needs to be done in the country, or is it innovative financing mechanism, the policy reform, or on the infrastructure side, or on the corporate mandate reform?
No, I think they all have to synchronize. I mean, either of them are important. Looking with our experience, I believe that policy definitely is needed. That's the first thing to come, because that's the vision and mission of the country. Based on that, all businesses has to underline that. But technology is an ever-evolving scenario. So it'll keep evolving. Whatever technology you take today will change tomorrow. But you have to have a technology which has the ability to adopt the new technology. And capex is an issue which I'm saying the funding. The financial institution has to come up with a new model that how do you look at the green financing, right? Decarbonizing of the whole logistics system is basically a new kind of approach is required for financing. It needs huge capital deployment when you're talking of charging station, building big station, building stations which are hydrogen compatible. The cost is very, very high. Just to give you a number, one LNG station costs you roughly 8 to 9 crores. And if you have a hydrogen compatibility, it goes around 20-25 crores per station. So that's the cost we are talking about. So therefore, I would suggest policy, led by policy, you need good amount of financing. And of course, technology will keep evolving and you keep adopting the technology. That's what I would say.
Thank you. See, all four are important, but for the sake of argument, I will say policy. And I'll just give you an example. So Baker Hughes has a target of net zero by 2050, and half of emission from the base year of 2019 till 2030. So we are present in more than 120 countries. And if, let's say, we see policy alignment in India more, we'll invest more in India to achieve that. So it is a low-hanging fruit for us. So just for that matter, I will say policy.
So I'll take example of my own industry. The laws were implemented in 2018. So I think the same is happening in the EV space. The laws are already there. So I feel that the policy though is important, but implementation of that policy and adherence to it at the administration level is key, I think. Like sir also mentioned, he has to go to Patwari also and DM also. So it all increases the cost and also discourages the private sector to invest. And once the compliance is there, then the investment would flow naturally, I think. So that is, policy would be key, I think, implementation.
I will change the answer. I have a fifth thing. Every one of us are trying to play a role in this value chain, let's say. And the biggest setback or the thing that holds us back is innovation in each of our areas. And the investment in innovation has to be done by the government to drive efficiency in each of those areas. And that is a continuous game. It is not, it has to be somehow structured, as opposed to this budget I will do this much, next budget I will do more, third budget I will do less. It should become a part of the system where 2% of the budget is going towards innovation. And if you have a defense budget, okay, 2% is going into that. And that's how actually the model is there. And that is the model used in the US. Why is US considered innovation driven? Because innovation is built into the structure, into the government policy. And now nobody even debates it. It's no longer, oh, should we reduce it? It is mandated by law that 2% of every government's budget will be going towards innovation to startups, not to big companies. And that generates a whole cycle of, you know, new technologies, new ideas, and you don't know what is new, you know, what could come out once you do that. So that's my, sorry, I didn't answer your question correctly.
I think we are operating in the wrong market then, huh? We need that 2%.
I just add to one small thing to what we all have discussed is because at Global Business Summit here in Taj Palace, New Delhi, we are discussing logistic, we are discussing here transport, we are discussing here mobility, decarbonization and all. I just want to bring in the attention of also to organizers and to all the stakeholders that this is something, the most important thing that India need today. And I have evidence to give so that you will be able to conclude on the virtue of this discussion that we have held it. It would not stop here, this will go forward. In 2023, when the world was standing behind our Prime Minister, and our Prime Minister took a call to challenge the status quo of, I know, thousands of years, where a new route other than the Silk Route was decided and the India, Middle East, European corridor was announced. Few days before and few days later also, the other corridor which India with National Highway Infrastructure Development Authority done the intercontinental and intertrans assessment and submitted it to Bangladesh. That is B3, Bodo, Bhutan and Bangladesh corridor. Both of these corridors at the time of announcement had two weird things which we understood later. In September 2023, this was announced in G20 here, and in October something happened which we all know as a conflict between Israel and Hamas all of a sudden. In this side, there was a flip of government in Bangladesh when this B3 corridors was announced. World today is driven by the mobility and by the trade. This happens through a corridor which is today owned by mostly China and the Chinese old Silk Route. The moment we try to keep our position strong in that space, that we will be able to take the transition and not only internal logistic but also going beyond our borders, external logistic. And internally, historically, we are 14.5% spending country on logistic, came down to 9% in last year. Everyone said for India, for a country of this spread, it would not be possible, but we did it. And now when we are moving ahead, it is very important that what Mr. Sandeep said, that every sector has a innovation capability. Policies are definitely there. I don't need to tell you that Prime Minister has that vision and it has been consistently working. But we all need to look into the innovations that rightly said into decarbonization, geospatialization, digitalization, or maybe surface transport mobility to green, even into financing. Thank you. This is what I wanted to add to it.
Sure. I would like to say that thank you so much, all of you, for giving your insights on covering the infrastructure, the policy side and the economic side. And I completely agree. The solution or the answer in the next decade is not dependent, but it's basically alignment between the policy and the industry, and also alignment between the infrastructure and demand, and the alignment between the finance and innovation. So in all of these 6 areas, if we have the alignment, then definitely India will not only decarbonize the freight, but also it will define the future of competitive and green logistics for the world. So thank you so much, all the panelists. You can name the whom are you addressing your question, and then respective panelists can.
My question was for Mr. Dr. Kumar. He has left, so I'll twist it a bit to bring it back to the focus. The question is basically on transport sector, and when we say about integration, so when Mr. Kumar's question was basically on semiconductor, how do you, so we do all know that there is scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 when it comes to climate change and ESG reporting. So when we talk about scope 3, generally shifts from either the client or let's say the supplier's end. But scope 1 is the game changer for a company in itself. So I wanted to know if any one of you could take it up and put a light on how you are integrating in reducing the scope 1 emissions within the company.
You're talking about the
ESG report.
Which kind of industry? Is it automobile industry or any kind of industry?
Transport section, it could be automobile, and it could be into commercial trucks and.
Okay. So
I think it's loosely for the ESG reporting, if I'm not wrong. That's why you're
Yes.
asking for scope 1 and 2 and 3. So I think naturally what everyone has mentioned here, from what I believe, since the investment and the policy is being framed and investment is being getting into this, so scope 1, naturally the companies who are spending would like to implement it in their reporting. So that would happen organically. But for scope 3, it will take some time. As we do ESG reporting, we tend to not talk about scope 3 a lot because it has a lot of implications for the companies we work for. But in terms of scope 1 and 2, yes, there are things which the companies are implementing. And I think in part the companies are doing this shift also to bring in scope and less emissions in the scope 1 already. So I hope I have answered your question.
and if you know about Bureau of Energy Efficiency, the policymaker on energy efficiency, they already have focusing, they have a flagship program called PAT, Perform, Achieve and Trade, focusing on the industries. So all the major industry, energy intensive industries, they're all being targeted. Now they have covered more than 15 industry sector, and they will reach out to the engineering industries as well, as and when they like go down. So all the energy intensive sectors have already been targeted, and they have been given target to reduce the emission of scope 1 and scope 2.
Thank you so much, speakers, for sharing your insights. And now I'll ask the photographer to please, we can have a, I'm so sorry, we're breaking for lunch. Everybody is hungry, I think.
One question only.
Okay, one quick question, if somebody wants, whom you are addressing to.
Any change do have two parts, man and machine. So in complete discussion, I could not see. Thanks. Any change do have two parts. One is man and another is machine. So we all had discussed about machine, let it be transistors, semiconductors or trucks. But another part is missing. That is skill set, which Mr. Tripathi rightly said that we are trying to plug the gaps. But in transport industry, I see there is already a huge gap. I do not know how government is taking or any industry, our panelist is taking this step to get into it, to reduce this issue of skill gap. Let it be on road, let it be for drivers, as hydrogen trucks or LNG trucks are already very costly, let us say 80 lakhs or 70 lakhs or 90 lakhs. So giving those trucks in hand of unskilled drivers or getting these repaired en route for those 1200 kilometers is very difficult to handle. So can anyone tell?
No, I fully agree with you. This is where we are facing it, and the biggest challenge for us is when we scale up to a 10,000 truck company, dealing with 10,000 driver, 10,000 into 2, 20,000 driver. How many of them are skilled? Because generally in the initial time when there is some minor problem in the car, driver used to solve himself rather than going to mechanic, right? Now that is not the case. Similarly, in terms of safety feature in those vehicles, which are highly IT driven, software driven vehicles. So this is a challenge, I agree. So that gap, I mean, I don't know from the government perspective, but but I know government has set up a lot of training institute, but these training institute were about skill of driving, but not the skill of how do you handle a car, because car is again, today is not a normal car, or a vehicle is not a vehicle, it's more of a technology platform. Similar thing is going into the truck. So we need to do a lot on that. I mean, I don't think that much is happening on this. At our level, what we are doing, we have put up a skill training center in Pune. We have put a center in Chakan where we are bringing, training them. When these drivers are coming before, we give them a truck, we give them a 1 week training, do's and don'ts, we observe their behavior. These trucks have air conditioned cabin and it has a camera and driver is seen every time. So to the extent company can, take all those precautions while selecting the driver, we have taken a lot of ex-servicemen because we believe that they are disciplined, trained driver to behave in a proper fashion. That's the way. Let's see what is the experience. We have not yet got the feedback so far, but these are some of the initiative companies taking at our own level. But I am not aware about government side at what all is happening. But cool, the skill development program of Government of India is there. It covers across the sector all kind of skill. Maybe driver is also there, but this is an area that this skill is not only simply driving a skill, it is managing a machine which is very, very technology savvy and high-tech driven vehicles. So that gap is there, yes.
So industry has to solve that gap. Government
Well, I will not say, but it is, since we are the first mover, so we have to take a pinch. As I am saying, we have to set up the LNG station, we have to set up a manufacturing facility. So over a time, this whole ecosystem will evolve. This gap which has been identified remains a gap. I agree with you. Somebody has to plug in, government has to plug in, industry has to raise this at different forum, so the government also try to modify their skill set, skill development program accordingly. So yes, this gap is there, right?
So at present, this gap is being met by the collaboration between the industry and the OEMs. So OEMs themselves are training the industry people and providing them the skills. They are developing their skill sets. And then slowly, government is also planning to come up with the EV skilling programs, focusing on these aspects. There are a lot of online platforms, online training courses, even for drivers also. The existing drivers can also take up an online course to and learn how to drive EV without even owning EV. So all those initiatives are being taken up. But presently the gap is being filled by the OEMs themselves, by training the industry.
The gap is very huge.
Sir.
OEM may not be able to tackle on its own.
No, you are absolutely right. Your point is well taken. This gap is there. We have to accept and acknowledge. OEM has, again I'm saying, OEM is training driver from a different perspective. Now the trucks are something like as a complete, what do you call, workstation, right? It is full of electronics there. And it is riding on a cryogenic tank behind you, or you are sitting over a battery. So temperature is an issue, safety issues are there. The OEMs are telling them a little bit about the vehicles and about do's and don'ts, a good behavior of driving, how to put a clutch, how to take a clutch out. And that's the exact problem which we have now. We are next fleet of truck is going to be automatic trucks. We are going through that so that those mistakes do not happen. So these things are coming. I agree with you. OEMs are training. Maruti has a lot of training school. I know that, the driver training school. Driver is one of the big skill gap otherwise also in the country. Otherwise also it is a big skill gap in the country. Everybody is a driver. If you drive for 2 days, you become the driver. But that's not the skills. That's what it is. That's what it is. So that's a fact we have to accept.
One small question to you, sir. The question is, do you see the government initiatives? We have ITIs and all, and the transport integration that you talked about, drivers being tracked. I'm also aware, I think Mahindra has also worked on similar fashion. Do you see the government initiatives are good enough to train the workforce or the upcoming workforce, students joining into like getting employed, or does it really need to be very specific to industry driving the initiative? Is there a gap, or is it good enough?
You are putting a question to a wrong man. The government man is sitting here, but still, having worked in government for a very long time, I can tell you how government functions. It has to be both ways. It has to be both ways. See, question is, we just can't blame the government. We have to be enabler with the government. If we are not, we have to raise this issue at a right forum in the government. So I fully take his point. This is a gap from the industry side. We will take up with the respective organization and the government. As I raise PESO, one example I gave, this one body is a huge, bandwidth gap in that. If they have so much of work, it delays their job. Similarly, in the case of driver also, what you are saying, it has to be approached both way, I would say.
Since we are in between lunch, I'll just give you a little bit about what pilot government is doing right now. We are really do not have ambition to make a new training division for training drivers for highways. That is in a skill development council, and there is an automotive skill development council. Whether they are doing it, not doing it, you're happy with it or not, that's not something I can respond to it. But what government wish to do on driving skill behavior is something which we are piloting is 4.0 driving scores. So today you have civil score, you don't have a driving score. Government is piloting a driving score in India that is for the individual driving behavior. In coming time, I'm too early to announce this and officially, so do not take it as a pilot. your driving license required to be tapped on your dashboard so that you are recognized, your face need to be recognized by your vehicle that you are driving, your score is going to go up or down, and then when you disconnect the entire driving pattern, how many times you have taken wrong turns and rash lane changing, over speeding, everything is going to be deposited in the ADAS of your vehicle. ADAS, for your information, is commercial vehicle is compulsory now to have an ADAS in India. Once it is deposited in this is going to be married very soon with VEDAS, Vehicle Electronic Data Electronics Analytics System. And once we have those information, if we wish to charge you or penalize you for one wrong lane change or one over speeding, we may start with 10 rupees. We may go to 20 rupees depending on the willingness of people when they are going to be civil.
No, this driver score we have started, but that is from the point of view of incentivizing the drivers. So something like that has to come across the country, you're right.